Alrighty, well, welcome everybody. Thanks for taking your lunch hour out to talk about funding. So today, what we're going to be doing is I will be talking about accessing capital from a CDFI, specifically Maryland Capital Enterprises, and then James Peterson from M&T Bank will talk about accessing capital at M&T and for-profit banks in general. We're going to leave lots of time for questions because I'm sure there's a lot of questions about money. So I will go first and go ahead and get started. So first, a little bit about who we are. So we've been around since 1998. We are what's called a Community Development Financial Institution, a CDFI. A lot of people think of that as nonprofit banks, which is kind of right. So we are here to help folks access capital to start or grow their businesses, who might not be able to get a bank loan, whether it's for credit, whether it's because it's a new business or some other reason. We also offer free counseling that we call technical assistance, whether or not entrepreneur seeks a loan with us. And that can be one-on-one helping with business plans, marketing, cash flows, all of those things, webinars just like this one, and occasional classroom sessions. Back in 2012, we moved over the bridge to the Western Shore and started serving the Baltimore region. Currently, we are serving all of the Eastern Shore, Anne Arundel County, Baltimore City, and Harford and Cecil counties. So sort of wrapping around the bay like that. In 2020, we became a women's business center, which means that we can offer enhanced services to women and minority-owned businesses. And so to find out all about those services, check us out at marylandcapital.org or Women's Business Center at marylandcapitalenterprises.org. So lots of folks know us as an SBA lender, but that doesn't necessarily mean, or often doesn't mean, that you're getting SBA funds. What it does mean is that they are backing the loans. They trust us that we can work with entrepreneurs, and that they will be successful and pay back the loan. But if they can't, they'll let us have a certain percentage of that back. Where we get the money from is often from U.S. Department of Treasury or other federal agencies, the Maryland State DHCD and Department of Commerce. That's how we get what folks call the Volt loans or the VLT fund. So I have some tech problems there. Alrighty. And like I said, we also raise funds to lend out. So even though you might not be getting SBA money, all of our loans are pretty much the same. Additionally, as I said before, we offer all of that free training and personal assistance, whether or not you apply for a loan. So now to talk a little bit about getting a loan from a CDFI, specifically Maryland Capital Enterprises. So what we're looking for, first of all, are for-profit businesses that are in that service area that I listed out before. The business needs to be registered in one of those areas and conducting business in one of those areas. The business owner does not need to live in one of those counties or jurisdictions. So what we're looking for is a clearly established business idea, and that's through a thorough business plan. That doesn't necessarily mean a very long business plan, but what you want to be able to do is state what your business does, how it's going to start or grow, and then what you are going to use the funds for and why you need those to start or grow your business. Oftentimes that can be done in 5, 6, 7 pages. If it is longer than that, that's okay, but don't feel like you need to give us a 100-page book. We're also looking for experience in the field. You have to let us know that you're going to be able to run that business. Either that's through years of experience, education, or maybe a mentor that's helping you start that business. The next thing that we're looking for is the strength of the cash flow, particularly for startups. We're going to want to see that you understand how much money is going to be coming in and going out and where exactly that's going to be, and that in a worst case scenario, you're going to be able to sustain your business. We also do require collateral for most of our loans. And so we're looking at the strength of collateral. Is it the full amount of the loan? Is it wholly owned real estate, or is it something a little different, which we can get very flexible on? And then we're looking at reasonable credit. Now you'll notice here that there is not a credit score, and that is because we don't have a minimum credit score. What we're really looking for is what you've been doing in the last year or two. We're looking for things specifically like missed payments and past due amounts. We also cannot accept applications if a business owner has had a bankruptcy discharged in the last 24 months, or if they have a tax debt without a payment plan. If you do have a tax debt and need a payment plan, talk to us. We can help you work with the IRS about that. We're also looking at the general economic conditions of the venture. And what that really means is this the right place and the right time to be opening up this business? Is it because of something in the national economy that might make things different? Or are you trying to open up a pizza shop on a block that already has six pizza shops? You're going to have to explain to us how you're going to be able to survive in that competitive atmosphere. Then again, we want to know your ability to repay the loan. And that means that if your business is not successful, can you get back into the workforce because you are still going to owe that loan? So before I move forward, are there any questions on the eligibility criteria? Nope. Okay, so we will keep on moving forward then. So our application documents might look a little bit different than other CDFIs, but generally when you're applying for a loan, you're going to be needing all of these things. So first of all of our stuff is done online. The first thing you do, and I'm sure most of the folks on here have already done, is fill out our MCE WBC client intake form. That can be found at the top right-hand corner of the Maryland Capital Enterprises website on a button that says Get Started Here. We're also going to need your business loan application. And then anybody who owns 20% or more of the business is going to have to fill out a personal information supplement because these loans are all personally guaranteed. The documents that we're going to need are your business plan with cash flows or cash flows as an addendum. We're going to want to know how this loan is going to help you expand. And if you've got some personal credit issues, you might want to let us know about that in the business plan as well. If you're an existing business, we are going to need to see your last two profit and loss statements and your most quarterly balance sheet, along with 2 years of tax returns and 3 months of corporate bank statements. Of course, if you haven't been around for 2 full years, we just need whatever does exist. For all businesses, we're going to need 2 years of personal tax returns from anybody who owns 20% or more of the business, along with 3 months of personal statements from those same people. Now, all of that's what's required, but often it's the additional stuff that can help you get a yes. So what we're looking for are things that are going to help you tell your story. For instance, reference letters, resumes. If you've got licenses or you've got contracts, that's always great. If you're opening up a retail establishment and you have an LOI for that, we love to see that. If you're having any work done, we'd love to see some estimates. If you're buying, machines or parts or things like that, we'd like to know what that's going to cost as well. If you get a loan from us and you're buying a big piece of machinery or a vehicle, we will actually write the check out to whoever you're purchasing that for, and then the difference will be your working capital. All right. So now what are we looking for when we're looking at a loan application? So number one, we're looking for passion. And that doesn't just mean that you're excited about it. It's that you have the drive to continue and to work during very hard times to make sure that your business succeeds because you're probably going to be having your salary, employee salaries, and customers that depend on you. So, when things get tough, are you going to have that drive? We're also looking for that expertise, whether it be experience, education, or mentorship. And if certificates are required, we're going to want to see those as well. We also want to know that you did your research. This is huge. We want you to understand where you fit in the market, to understand that there's room for your business and there's customers there that can become your customers and make sure that you make your profit. We also want to know about contingency plans. You might have a one-person shop, but what happens if you get sick and can't work for 3 months? How are you going to keep your customers online? And then we're going to want to again talk about the credit and collateral. And being upfront about credit issues is definitely the way to be because we can often mitigate things that we know about. If we pull that credit and see something on there that's a surprise, that becomes a lot more difficult. So before I move on, are there any questions about what we're looking for in a loan application? All righty. So, what happens once it's turned in? So, we accept applications, and actually, we just changed this through the second Friday of each month. What that means is that by the close of business, you will need to have filled out the online application along with all of its attachments, and you've emailed us everything that you want us to look at. You need to fill out that client intake form, which hopefully most of you already have, and you'll be assigned a staff member as a business counselor. That person is going to help you work on submitting the paperwork. They're going to make sure that everything is complete and that we understand everything that you've submitted. That's all done through follow-up calls, Zoom meetings, or in-person meetings. Then in the last or fourth week of the month, the loan committee will meet and make a decision. At that point, they're going to determine the rate and term of the loan. Also the amount, but generally we only approve or disapprove loans. And the reason for that is if you ask us for 50,000 and we give you 25, unless there's some special circumstance, we're setting you up for failure with $25,000 in debt. So make sure to ask for exactly what you need. Assuming it's a yes, we're going to issue you a commitment letter. And approved loans are usually funded within 2 to 4 weeks of approval. It can take a little bit longer if you're using a house as collateral, but generally that's what we shoot for. So now the big thing, what about the loans that we have? So we've got two different types of loans. The first is just our traditional small business loan. Those can range from 5,000 to about 35,000 for startups. And a startup is anybody who's been around for 2 full years or less. And that doesn't mean when you were registered, it means when you started actually doing the business. If you've been around for 2 full years or more, you can apply for up to 150,000, and there is some wiggle room there as well. The term is going to be determined on the size of your loan. A $35,000 loan might be 5 years, 50 might be 6 or 7, and anything 90, 100 or higher is going to be at 10 years. Our interest rates tend to be set at 6 to 12%. I've seen most of these loans going out in the 8% range, a couple sevens, a couple of nines. I said we did require collateral. Of course, as I said, that wholly owned real estate is the best kind, but we can get flexible. We can even use somebody else's property if they're willing to put it up. As I said before, any owner who owns 20% or more of the business is going to have to personally guarantee the loan. And if you have a business that has more than 10 owners or something like that, and nobody owns 20%, we're going to want to see 3 or 4 folks guarantee that loan. Now, as far as the application goes, there is a fee. It's $100 plus $25 per owner for the credit report. We only do a TransUnion soft pool. And so what that means is it's not going to affect your credit. We were able to show you your entire credit report, and we'll have a discussion with you about that. If you're approved, there are legal fees, closing costs. We take that out of the loan proceeds. So if you get approved for 50,000, you're going to walk out with probably just north of 48,000. We do require automatic monthly payments. Those are due either on the 1st or the 15th of each month. However, if you know that you're not going to be able to make a payment and you let us know, we'll work with you to defer a payment, go to interest only, or even restructure the loan. On the other side of that, if you are doing really well, and you want to pay off the loan completely, as long as your loan is 30 days old, you will be able to pay that off for exactly what the principal is on that day. Also, we will be visiting you twice a year, either virtually or in person, to talk about your business, to look at your books and let you know about free resources that we have for you. And then the big question is, what can I use these for, and is my business eligible? So as far as if a business is eligible, almost all small businesses that are for profit are eligible that if they are in our service area. The only kinds that are not are what are considered the traditional sin industry, 100% alcohol, adult bookstores, things like that. But we are able to work in both medical and recreational cannabis industries. As far as what you can use the loans for, basically any business expense, and that can be from build out to rent to a mortgage of a commercial building. It can be your salaries, it can be your marketing, anything like that. There are just a few restrictions there. Number one, if you are a home-based business, we cannot pay your rent, mortgage, or utilities. And number two, if you are in the property investment business, we can't purchase properties for you to flip or rent out. And we can't purchase materials that are not reusable. So if you need a truck for that business, yes. If you need, nails and screws and nuts and bolts, then we cannot pay for those. The next loan that we have is our credit builder loan. This is for folks who either have no or maybe poor credit or who are thinking about dipping their toes into entrepreneurship. These go up to $5,000. They tend to be a 2-year term at 9%. We don't require collateral for these, but we do, of course, encourage it because it gets you a better chance of a yes. And everything else is the same, except for it's got much lower costs with a $50 application fee and a $75 closing cost. Oftentimes folks use to get their credit score up as they're starting their business so that they can either come to us or go to a bank for their second loan when they're really ready to expand. So before I wrap up and hand it over to Jim, I just like to say there's a few things there's few places in this country where there are more free resources for small business. So take advantage of all of us. All of your public libraries are going to have a business center. Most of your counties or cities have economic development offices. There's chambers of commerce all over the place in Maryland. The SBDC, the Small Business Development Center, is part of the SBA. All of these groups are here to help you, and it's mostly for free to start and grow your business. Also, you want to think about your universities. Even if you aren't connected to them, universities like Salisbury or Morgan State are going to be able to work with you, whether it's just advice and counseling or maybe getting a class to intern to help you with your marketing. So definitely want to talk to those folks. So that is the end of my portion of the presentation. Before I hand it over to Jim, are there any questions about borrowing from a CDFI? Nope. Okay.
I do
Jim,
have a question. Oh, I'm sorry.
sure. Go ahead.
Now is there a minimum credit score you're willing to work with, or
So
um,
there's not a minimum score that we have. What we're really looking at is the history. Of course, something, below 500 is going to be very, very hard to deal with. I've seen loans in the high fives and in the sixes get approved because it really is based on the whole story, and the credit is just a part of that. All
okay?
right.
And does this? Oh, I'm sorry. One last question.
Sure.
Um, are you solely going based off of personal credit, or does business credit count in?
So we are only looking at personal credit. If you've got a credit report, feel free to show it. Especially if it's good, it can't hurt. But generally, these decisions are made off of personal credit.
Okay, thank you.
You are welcome. Any other questions? Nope. All right, Jim, you should be able to share if you'd like.
All right, thanks, Nick, and good afternoon, everyone. Hopefully, I won't have any technical difficulties. Let's see. Chat. So if there's anybody putting questions in the chat, can you manage that for me?
Yep.
All right, thank you. All right, so I'm Jim Peterson, as Nick said. I'm the small business ambassador at M&T Bank. M&T Bank is the #1 SBA lender in the Mid-Atlantic. We do more small business lending than any other bank in this area. And I think we're #7 in the country, and we're nowhere near as large as the other banks, but we do more small business lending. That's what we do. And in that, our partner, the SBA, helps us get those deals that might otherwise not get done across the line. Now, a lot of people like to mention that they want an SBA loan. They ask me all the time, can you get me one of those SBA loans? The SBA is not a lender, they're a guarantor. So they're a partner of ours. So we work very closely with the SBA. And as I mentioned, we're the #1 SBA lender. So I'm going to try to be as quick as Nick, but I still want you to understand a lot of the details that I'm going to share with you and how traditional lenders work. But if you have any questions, please jump off mute, jump in, and stop me so you don't miss anything. Quickly, our agenda is going to be what are small business loans, how do small business loans work, the types of small business loans, what to do before you apply for a loan, the 5 C's of credit, and then what documents you're going to need when you apply for a small business loan. So small business loans are a key component of economic growth for small businesses and their employees. And there is a direct correlation between small business financing access and an ability to hire employees. And that's what we all want you to do. We want you to grow and be able to hire folks, right? So how the small business loans work. So they're used for a number of things in a small business, like your business expenses, general funding, and some have specific uses like working capital, commercial mortgages, and purchasing of equipment and furniture. Right now, the types of loans that we offer in traditional lending are term loans, business lines of credit, and equipment loans. Now, for a term loan, that's going to be a lump sum with a fixed term and a repayment amount. Think about your car loan or your mortgage, right? You have a certain amount of money spread out over a certain amount of time at a particular interest rate, right? Then you have a business line of credit. Now, that's revolving. That means you have a certain amount of money, you can use it, pay it back. It's there for you to use again and pay it back, right? It's revolving. It keeps you use it, you put it back, you use it again. All right. And that's how business lines of credit works. Then you have an equipment loan. You want to buy a particular piece of equipment. It's fixed at a certain interest rate, usually has a term associated with it based on the usefulness of that piece of equipment. And that's how that works. We can get into more details about any of these if you want to reach out to me and need me to be more specific. Or if you have a question, you can again, jump off mute. We can try to discuss it, keeping time in mind. We don't want to get too far down a rabbit hole. But what should you do before you apply for a loan, right? Nick mentioned your credit score. We want to make sure that your credit score is adequate. Now, for traditional lending, we like to see 660, 680 as a credit score. All right, we're going to have a bit of an issue if it's less than 660, and we then may have to bring in the SBA or ask you for another guarantor, or try to mitigate that with some crazy cash flow in your business, right? Or some collateral. Perhaps you can put up some substantial collateral. But we want to know again that we're going to be partners in this, and that your credit score is at a certain level, because that's how we judge character. And I'm going to talk about character in a minute when I go through those 5 C's of credit. The way we get to know your character is by your credit report. We learn a lot about you by your credit report. So again, we expect you to know before you come in for the loan also exactly what it is you want to do with the funding, right? I wish I had $10 for every time somebody told me I need $100,000, right? That seems to be the going rate that people need these days. They need 100 grand. Right. And then I asked them, what do you need that 100 grand for? And they say, oh, well, I need working capital, and I got to buy some inventory. Right. That's not good enough. We need to know exactly what you're spending that money on. And it's in your best interest, because when you work with folks like myself, who's more than just a banker, I'm a business advisor, and folks like Nick and folks at the SBDC and other free resources that you have available to you, right? You'd be surprised how when you tell them exactly what you need, they can find other ways, to help you get there. All right. If you're looking for something in particular, if you're looking for a place to work, you need an office to work out of. Some of those resource providers might be able to point you in the direction of somebody who has office space available, where you might have thought you needed to pay $3,000 a month. Maybe they know somebody that can give it to you for $1,200 a month. Right. So when you're specific and tell people exactly what you need, you may find that you don't really need as much money as you think you need. All right. There may be some grants available somewhere. There may be somebody who can offer you some of those things that you need at a lower cost or no cost. Right? You might have thought you needed to hire a CPA to get your past taxes together, and one of these resource providers might have, a resource that does that for free. Right? Certain times of the year, certain organizations will do that for free. Certain communities, if you're a senior, if you're a veteran, certain organizations offer them services for free. So you want to be specific about what it is that you need. And then we're also going to need a business plan. right? All of you, if you're in business, you should have a business plan. If you have one and it needs to be updated, you should get it updated. There's free resources to help you with that. We need a good, well thought out business plan. And again, like Nick mentioned, we don't need a 50-page business plan. We need a good, well thought out that just tells us exactly what it is that you're trying to do and what you need to get that done. And I'd like to see a really good, well thought out executive summary, right? That's the first couple of pages of your plan. I want to know everything I need to know. I read a lot of business plan. Nick reads a lot of business plan. These resource providers that you all know of, we read a lot of business plans, and we don't have time to read 50-page business plans. So we want to know right up front, who you are, what you're trying to do, what you need, right? What's your ask? What is your promise? What are you going to give for that ask? And how are we going to get our money back? Right? If you're looking to borrow money, we need to know those things right up front. It is so frustrating to get to page 25 before I know exactly what it is you want from me. Right? I want to know that right up front. And oftentimes, if I don't know that in the first few pages, I'm going to put that aside and put that into the get back to pile. And hopefully I'll get back to it. No, I'll get back to it, but it may take some time because I got a lot of business plans to go through. So I want to know up front. So let me keep moving on. If you have any questions, again, you can jump in and let me know. So let's go through the 5 C's of credit real quick. I'm going to start with character because I touched on that already. And character is just your reputation, right? And we know what your reputation, your borrowing reputation is based on your credit report. We can see who you've borrowed from in the past and what your record with them is, right? And somebody asked Nick if we look at business credit, and yes, we do. As a traditional lender, we do look at business credit, but not the business credit that you might be thinking. Right? I'm sure you saw something on TikTok or Instagram where they said, build your business credit with Dun & Bradstreet, and you don't need to use your personal credit. That is not true. Every lender will look at you first. We're going to look at your personal credit first. You are the business, especially if you're a solopreneur, especially if it's 1 or 2 or 3 people, right? Who else are we going to look at? All right, you're not Jeff Bezos, where we're looking at Amazon that makes billions of dollars. We're looking at you in whatever entity that you have, where you are the entity. If something happened to you, there would be no business. So why wouldn't we look at you, right? So we're going to start with you personally. But with a traditional lender at M&T, at least, we don't go to Dun & Bradstreet for your business report. We go to the same place we go for your personal report. We go to FICO. FICO manages business credit as well. That number, that score, is called an SBSS score. Right? That's everything that you purchase in your business name will be on that report. So that has a score, and your personal credit has a score. And those are the 2 numbers that we look at when you come to us for a business loan. The next C, collateral. Again, that's something that has value, something that could be used in the worst case scenario, if we had to lean on that to get some value out of it to make up for the money that was borrowed that could not be paid back. Then you have conditions. Conditions are what's going on in the world, right? What's going on in the market, what's going on in your industry, what's going on in your town. All those things can affect how profitable your business could be, right? COVID, we all been through COVID. That COVID is one of those conditions that nobody saw coming, right? We want to also make sure that while we're reviewing your business plan, that you have contingencies built in for conditions like COVID, right? Who knows what could happen next, but we like to see that you're at least considering that, perhaps, interest rates will go up. And in that case, we're going to do this, right? Things like that. We love to see that because that means that you truly understand your business and you're thinking about what could happen. Not only what is probable, but also what could happen, right? That's a smart entrepreneur thinking about what could happen, right? Those conditions could change. So next C is capacity, right? What kind of cash flow does the business have? If something were to happen, if one of those conditions were to happen, if interest rates were to go up, if we go through a crazy winter spell like the snow we just got recently, right? And things slow down and perhaps there's no foot traffic to your store, right? Do you have the cash flow to manage that? You're not making as much every day as you used to make. Do you have enough in the bank to weather that slow, that slow period? We're going to look at your debt to income ratio. Again, that shows us the capacity that you have. What's your burn rate? How much is it costing you to operate that business every 30 days? And how much cash do you have on hand to get through how many 30-day periods? Right? That's all capacity. That those are things that we look at. And then capital again. What are you willing to invest? How much have you put into it? We want to know that we're in this together. And a lot of people forget, when we ask that question, a lot of people say, well, I got about $2,000 in the bank, but that real question is when we say, how much have you put into the business? How much have you put into the business since you started, right? You had to pay whatever it is for your filing or whatever. You had to get a computer. You might have bought a desk, maybe you got a little office space that you're renting, whatever it is that you've invested in the business is what we want to know. What capital have you invested up to this point? So always remember to add everything that you've put into the business when you're asked that question. Any questions around the 5 C's of credit? If not, I'm going to move on. All right, so we'll move on to the documentation for the loan. We want, again, to check we're going to check your personal background, right? Now, we're not doing a background check on you, but we're going to look at your credit report, et cetera. We may ask other lenders about you if you have a relationship with other lenders. We want to see bank statements, right? That's how we know how you're managing your funds. We might ask you for a resume, depending on what industry you're in and what the use of funds are. We may ask you for a resume, again, to get an understanding of who you are. Definitely going to ask for a business plan, right? Like I mentioned, a complete, thorough business plan that hopefully explains exactly who you are and what you're trying to do and what you need and how we're going to get our money back. And then income tax returns, like stated earlier, 2 years personal, 2 years business. Now that could be 3 years business, depending, right? First of all, if you've been in business for more than 3 years, and then again, depending on conditions, right? Back when, not too long ago, when we were coming out of COVID, it kind of skewed things. Folks were getting PPP loans and EIDL loans, and they got all this money in the bank, and it may look great on paper until you take a wider view. In some cases, we were asking for 3, 4, maybe 5 years because we had to see a couple years before COVID and a couple years after COVID to understand what the true picture of the business is, not just that COVID period, right? Some folks did better based on the PPP and EIDL loans that they were able to get, and some did worse, right? Not everybody was able to get those relief funds, and perhaps they took a hit where they would normally have cash reserves or some liquidity. Because of COVID, they had none, or they had less, or they were in the negative, and they were in a bad way because of COVID. And we don't want to use that against them either, right? So we want to know what's normal. So we may ask for additional years just to get a good baseline of what's normal for the business. So that's the documentation that we're going to need. And what we're looking for is, again, loan history, bank statements, if you have any collateral, what the use of the loan is, and any debt schedules, what you're paying now and how much it's costing you and over what terms, and things like that. Now, what's different between a traditional lender and a CDFI is that we have to go to underwriters, and this is what our underwriters are looking for, right? Unlike CDFIs that have loan committees, we have underwriters, and these are the things that they're going to be looking for. Right now, again, these are the legal documents, the additional legal documents that we may also need. Based on your industry, we may need a business license or registrations, right? If you're in the if you're in a business where that involves any kind of machinery, right? There's a particular license for gaming machines related to gambling, but also vending machines, right? You may need a vending machine license, right? If you're selling outdoors, you might need I forget what that vendor's license is, where you're selling outside, but that's a particular license. If you're in the food business, there's a food license, right? So it may be a particular license that you need, and we're going to ask you for that. Do you have it? Is it current? If you're leasing, we might want to see your lease. If you plan to lease, we might want to see where you plan to lease, right? And permission from your landlord. Make sure that it's legit, right? So we might ask you for that. Your formation articles, we definitely want to see that your formation articles, that again, you're legit, you're legal, and that you're current. That's one thing that a lot of people miss, right? You have to be in good standing. We're going to go right to SDAT and check and see if your business is in good standing. A lot of people forget about that $300 minimum that's due every April, right? April's coming up. If you forgot about it, now you know. Can't say you weren't told. Every April, you have to renew that good standing, and it's based on the property that the business owns. And if you have substantial holdings in Maryland, then they will evaluate what it is that you owe based on the value of the property that the business holds. But if you don't have much, right? If it's just you and your desk and your laptop, there is a minimum. So that minimum is $300, and you need to pay that every year, right? Every April. So even if you formulated your business in February, in April you got to pay, right? So it's not a year to year. If you start in February, you don't have till next February to pay. You pay every April. So remember that, right? A lot of people get tripped up with that. It's due in April. So copies of any contract that you might have, again, that might support you, right? Because that shows that you're going to have some income coming in. And then any franchise agreements. We love franchises, by the way. Traditional banks love franchises. We have a preferred franchise list. And if you happen to choose a business that's on our preferred franchise list, it's going to make you getting that loan so much easier, because that means that we've done these deals a number of times in the past. We know exactly how they should work, right? So it's never easy, but it's easier for us to manage those deals for these particular franchises because we've done so many of them, and we obviously are comfortable with the business model in the way these franchises work. So any questions up to this point? I am done. That is my presentation. I hope you learned something, and I hope that you all have some kind of question, because I know that invariably we do these workshops. Nick and I do this all the time, and as soon as we jump off, 3 or 4 of you are going to reach out to me on LinkedIn and ask me a question. Right now's the time to ask the question, because I guarantee you that if you're thinking it, if you have the question, somebody else has the same question. They may be scared to ask it as well. So please ask.
We've got one in the chat. Is the approved list of franchises available?
It is not. It's internal. But you probably all know the main franchises, right? You've heard of them before. Any other questions?
We got the money, people.
Right. So you spent your whole lunch hour, we 40 minutes in, and you just jumped on to hear Nick and I talk?
Yeah. Are there any free resources for grants outside of loans? So I'll answer that at the beginning of that. Generally, right now, there are not a lot of small business grants. Occasionally, banks will have some of those out, and the only ones that I know of that are with any regularity are facade improvement grants for retail establishments in certain historic shopping districts, like the Baltimore Main Streets and the downtown Annapolis, places like that. Jim, you might know more.
Yeah, there are some, right? There's an American Express grant out right now. There's a Hello Alice. Hello Alice always has some kind of grant available, right? But again, if you're looking to build a good sustainable business, don't rely on grants. I'm not saying if you can get it, don't get it, but don't look for grants to build your business. Look for filling a void or solving a problem. If you're solving a problem, if you're truly solving a problem, which is why businesses are in place, then you don't need a grant, right? If you need funding, go sell something. Sell your product, sell your service, so that you can continue to sell, right? If you're doing a good job or if you have a good product, that person that buys your product is going to keep buying your product, and you should be able to find more people to buy more products, and then that way, that's how you get started. That's what we want to see as lenders. We want to see that somebody wants what you got, right? When we're deciding whether or not we want to give you money, we want to know that, you're not going to come back every month, right? If you need money now, and you get an influx of money, you get $100, you get $500, you get $5,000, a grant or whatever, and you don't have a good sustainable business, you're going to be back next month wanting another $5,000, right? So we want you to have good, sustainable businesses. There's a lot of resources out here, including Nick and myself, who want to see you all succeed. And perhaps you need to sit down with somebody and figure out how you can create a good, sustainable business so that you don't need grants.
Yep, yep, absolutely. So we got two more. Oh, so one's about sharing the presentation. Yeah, Bilky, if you email me, I can get you my presentation for sure. And then somebody, what has to be submitted every April? So that I think they're talking about the fee there.
Yeah,
So
it's to be in good standing with the state of Maryland, or whatever state you're in. Now, different states have different timings, but they all need you to be in good standing with that state that you do business in. A lot of folks are registered in Delaware. Delaware has different timing, but Maryland, it's every April. If you do business in the state of Maryland, they want you to be in to get your good standing in. In fact, Delaware is free. You gotta file it, but it's free. And in Maryland, it's a $300 minimum. Now, again, if you have substantial holdings, if you have trucks and inventory worth thousands of dollars, then it's a percentage of the value of the holdings of that company that you need to pay. But if you don't have anything substantial, then it's a $300 minimum.
yep. Any other questions? Oh, okay, it looks like folks might have a little bit of extra lunchtime. So we will go ahead and let you all go. Again, this will be up on YouTube in the next week or so. And feel free to reach out to me for any of the slides or at info@marylandcapital.org. All right. Well, thank you, Jim. It's been great seeing you. Thank you to everybody who came and spent their Wednesday lunch with us. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you. Bye bye.
Good. See you guys.